phones, Babylons can't crack the code.
What do YouTube? Be Kelley, back again with another banger video. In today's video, y'all, I'm going to be talking about what happened to the past 10 number 1 defensive linemen in their class from 2011 to 2020. And for this video, I'm going to use the 24/7 Sports Composite rankings. Coming out of the 2011 recruiting class, the number 1 defensive lineman in the nation is also someone that was viewed as one of the best, if not the best, high school player coming out of high school ever, and that is Jadaveon Clowney, and he would end up going to South Carolina. Jadaveon Clowney at South Carolina was one of the best defensive linemen, if not the best one, in all of college football while he was there. Jadaveon Clowney was a straight baller. In his whole career in just 3 seasons at South Carolina, he had 129 total tackles, 47 for loss, 24 sacks, 7 pass deflections, 1 fumble recovery, and 9 forced fumbles. Not to mention, in 2012, he won the Ted Hendricks Award, and he was a consensus All-American. Jadaveon Clowney would forgo his final year of college eligibility and declare his name for the 2014 NFL Draft, where he was viewed by many as a consensus number 1 overall pick. In that draft, he would indeed be drafted number 1 overall by the Houston Texans. Jadaveon Clowney would spend 5 seasons in Houston, where after his injury-riddled rookie season, where he missed most of the season, only appearing in 4 games, it would really seem like he would get better in each season. In his 5 seasons at Houston, he had 205 total tackles, 64 of them being for loss, 29 total sacks, 11 pass deflections, 4 forced fumbles, and 6 fumble recoveries as a Texan. After 5 seasons in Houston, Jadaveon Clowney would play 1 season in Seattle, where he had 31 total tackles, 7 for loss, and 3 sacks. After this season, he would end up signing with the Tennessee Titans. So far, in his lone season as a Tennessee Titan, Jadaveon Clowney faced injury issues in this season, where he only appeared in 8 games for the Titans, and in those 8 games, he racked up 19 total tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 0 sacks, and 1 forced fumble. The number 1 defensive lineman in the 2012 recruiting class was Mario Edwards, the defensive tackle out of Texas who was committed to Florida State. In 3 seasons at Florida State, Mario Edwards would rack up 95 total tackles, 23 tackles for loss, 8 sacks, 1 interception, 7 pass deflections, 2 fumble recoveries, and 3 forced fumbles. After a huge breakout season as a junior where he racked up 44 total tackles, 11 for loss, and 3 sacks, he would declare his name early for the 2015 NFL Draft, where he was taken in the 2nd round 35th overall pick by the Oakland Raiders. Mario Edwards would spend 3 seasons in Oakland as a part of the Raiders football team, where in 2 out of the 3 seasons he was a starting defensive lineman, but after that, he would be on 3 different teams in 3 different seasons, as one season he was in New York as a Giant, the next he was in New Orleans as a Saint, and then after that, he was on the Chicago Bears. He's currently kind of a backup defensive lineman currently in the NFL, has not started a season since 2017, and has so far become an NFL journeyman, which is definitely not bad at all because he is staying in the league. For his career so far in the NFL, he has racked up 14.5 sacks, 110 total tackles, 18 of them for a loss, and 3 forced fumbles. Coming out of the 2013 recruiting class, the number 1 defensive lineman in the nation was defensive end Robert Nkemdiche, who was committed to Ole Miss. At Ole Miss, Robert Nkemdiche would spend 3 seasons as a Rebel, where he had 81 total tackles, 16 tackles for loss, and 6 sacks. After his best season his junior year, he would declare his name for the 2016 NFL Draft, where he would be a late 1st round pick taken with a 29th overall selection in the 1st round by the Arizona Cardinals. Robert Nkemdiche would spend 3 seasons in Arizona, where he was primarily a backup defensive lineman. He started in 6 of the 27 games while he was there before getting released before the 2019 NFL season. In the 2019 NFL season, he would sign with the Miami Dolphins, where he was injured in the very beginning of the season, and just after 2 games, he was released by the Miami Dolphins and has not been in the NFL since. His career numbers in the 29 games he played in just about 4 seasons, he racked up a total of 44 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, and 4.5 sacks. In the 2014 recruiting class, the number 1 defensive lineman in the nation was Myles Garrett, who was committed to Texas A&M. In the 3 seasons that Myles Garrett was at Texas A&M, he racked up a total of 141 tackles, 47 tackles for loss, 31 sacks, 1 interception, 5 pass deflections, 1 fumble recovery, and 7 forced fumbles. He was also a 2016 consensus All-American. Myles Garrett would forgo his final year of college eligibility and declare his name for the 2017 NFL Draft, where he was taken with the number 1 overall pick by the Cleveland Browns. Myles Garrett has spent 4 seasons in Cleveland so far, and he's been a monumental part of their defense and their rebuild as a team. So far in his 4 seasons in Cleveland, he has made a total of 152 tackles, 42.5 sacks, and 42 tackles for loss, and 3 fumble recoveries. He's also made 2 Pro Bowls and 1 All-Pro team. In the 2015 recruiting class, the number 1 defensive lineman in the nation was Trey Thompson, who was committed to Georgia. In Trey Thompson's 3-year career at Georgia, he would rack up 127 total tackles, 15.5 tackles for loss, and 5.5 sacks for his career as a Bulldog. In 2016, his sophomore season, he would have a breakout season where he had 64 total tackles, 9.5 tackles for loss, and 5 sacks on the season. But in his final year at Georgia, his junior season in 2017, he would have a down year compared to the previous season. Now, he would declare early for the 2018 NFL Draft, despite many people thinking he should have came back for his senior season. Trey Thompson would end up going undrafted in the 2018 NFL Draft. Shortly after that draft, he would be picked up by the Cleveland Browns, but would not make it to the preseason roster. Now, after the Browns, he would actually join the AAF with the Arizona Hotshots, but when that league eventually just died off, just pretty much in a few weeks, he would then take his talents to the Arena Football League. After he was done with the Arena Football League, he was in the CFL, but he was released before the season even started. And then once he was done with the CFL, he went to the XFL. But as we know, the XFL did not last very long either. He is now back in the Canadian Football League. In the 2016 recruiting class, the number 1 defensive lineman in the nation was Rashod Gary, who was committed to Michigan. In Rashod Gary's 3-year career at Michigan, he had a total of 119 tackles, 23 tackles for loss, 9.5 sacks, and 1 forced fumble in his career. His best year came in his sophomore season where he had 58 total tackles, 11.5 for loss, and 5.5 sacks. After 3 seasons, he would declare his name early for the 2019 NFL Draft. He would end up getting selected with the 12th overall pick in the first round by the Green Bay Packers in the 2019 NFL Draft. So far in his 2-year NFL career, Rashod Gary has primarily been a backup defensive lineman for the Green Bay Packers, but in this past season, the 2020 NFL season, he has made a bigger impact than he did in his rookie season. So far in his career, he has played in 31 games, he has had 7 sacks, 56 total tackles, and 8 tackles for loss. In the 2017 recruiting class, the number 1 defensive lineman in that class was Jalen Phillips, who was committed to UCLA. Jalen Phillips would not get off to the fastest start into his college football career. At UCLA, he would spend 2 seasons there where he was injury-riddled and only played in 10 games in 2 seasons. While he was at UCLA, he had 41 total tackles, 8 tackles for loss, and 4.5 sacks. But after his sophomore season at UCLA, he would enter the transfer portal. Jalen Phillips would end up transferring to Miami, where in the 2019 college football season, he had to sit out due to a redshirt rule. But in the 2020 college football season, he would have a breakout season with the Hurricanes, where in 10 games, he racked up 45 total tackles, 15.5 tackles for loss, and 8 sacks, and even an interception too. And after his breakout junior season at Miami, he would end up declaring for the 2021 NFL Draft. Coming out of the 2018 recruiting class, the number 1 defensive lineman in the nation was Xavier Thomas, who was committed to Clemson. Xavier Thomas would start off his college football career on a very good note, as in his first 2 seasons at Clemson, he was a very big key piece to that defense that they had. But in the 2020 college football season as a junior, he would only be able to play in 5 games, and because of this, he is not going to forgo his final year of eligibility, and he's going to come back for the 2021 college football season. So far in his career, he has had 66 total tackles, 20.5 tackles for loss, and 8.5 sacks, and even 2 forced fumbles. In the 2019 recruiting class, the number 1 overall defensive lineman in that class was Nolan Smith, who was committed to Georgia. In the 2 seasons he has spent in Georgia so far, Nolan Smith has had 39 total tackles, 5 tackles for loss, and 5 sacks in his career. Coming out of the 2020 recruiting class, the #1 defensive lineman in the nation was Breezy, who was committed to Clemson. In Breezy's lone season at Clemson so far as a freshman in the 2020 college football season, he was primarily a backup, but he did show a lot of flashes for the Tigers in this season. He had 23 total tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, and even 1 forced fumble. Well guys, now that I'm at the end of the video, remember to smash that like button, turn on them post notifications, and subscribe for more videos, and drop a comment as well for future video suggestions. Kelley out!